Welcome to the Confidence Conversations podcast. I'm Gail from Enrichment Coaching, Clarity and Courage Coaching for Confidence, and I'm the founder and CEO, or actually I prefer Chief Enrichment Officer. I love to make a difference to those beliefs that you have about what you think you can and can't do. So the idea behind this podcast is to get the confidence conversation going, and I want to explore all the different views and opinions on confidence because there's loads out there. I'm going to be talking to lots of different people over the episodes and exploring their confidence. How do they know when it's at their strongest? How do they know when it's at their lowest? And how do they manage that? And I'll be asking them for their top tips or takeaways about how they enrich their own confidence. Now, just to be clear, these conversations won't have any fancy editing. They'll be organic and authentic, just letting the conversation flow. That said, I know I'll be curious, so there may be a hint of coaching and questioning along the way. So, let's go. Hi, and welcome to this episode of Confidence Conversations. And I'm delighted today to welcome Catherine Edenborough to I hope I've said that right, to the podcast today. So Catherine is a fellow coach, and we probably met maybe 18 months ago. I think that's probably right. And I was really excited to speak to Catherine, and I wanted her to be a guest because we both talk about confidence, but we probably come at it from slightly different angles. So before we go any further, Catherine, introduce yourself. And I always say this is in true blind date style. Tell us who you are and where you're from and what you do.
Okay, well, thank you, Gail. It's lovely to be here. My name is Catherine Edenborough. You pronounced it just right. I'm based in Portsmouth, and I am, like you said, a fellow coach, and I mainly coach women who are moving into new roles. So they're in that transitional time where they're all excited about what they're about to start, but they're also feeling a bit lacking in confidence, perhaps, because they're thinking, oh my goodness, this is my dream job, potentially. I really want to do well, and I've got a lot of doubt all of a sudden about my ability to do it. So that's from my own story. I had a particular role when I was in the corporate world back in my previous life, where I was promoted, and it felt like the job had my name all over it, and it was just so exciting. But I got a lot of self-doubt and lack of confidence around my ability to really do it well. So I think that's where my passion has come from, for helping women to make good transitions and to support them through their first few months of a new job. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
There's loads to unpick there, first of all, but the first question I really want to ask you is what I ask everybody. What does confidence mean to you?
Yeah, that's a huge question, isn't it? I think, well, first of all, I'd say being confident means feeling really good in my own skin about whatever I'm doing, feeling really natural, like I'm not really trying, that it's all just flowing and I'm not overthinking anything. So, yeah, I love that. There's something about this natural flow, isn't there, with confidence? And I think I referred to it on one of the other podcasts where in the football, in the Euros, one of the commentators said, and what we're seeing here is the natural flow of confidence. Oh, yeah.
And there's something, do you know what that is? If you had to describe that.
I think there's something about when you're really not thinking about what you're doing, like when you're starting to learn any skill, it all feels clunky. And then when you've mastered it, you're just not thinking about it anymore. And it's just all comes naturally. There's an element of that to it, isn't there? And I also think there's something about your own gifts and your own talents, the thing that you have got to bring to the world is in there as well. So there's a bit of you that's just being expressed, which is coming out naturally, and then you don't have to overthink that either, because it's coming out of your essence, if you like,
And it's about who you are, I think, isn't it? And then that
Exactly.
and almost, I was going to say, almost once you're confident with who you are, which obviously takes a lot of work, and probably experience and probably knowledge and all of that, to then really be yourself. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think as we go through life, we start to know more of who we really are, don't we? I think when you're straight out of college, or you think you know who you are, but it's only as you go on in life that you start to recognize what really brings you life and what energizes you and what you feel good about yourself.
It's interesting because this morning, I say that a lot, by the way, it's interesting because usually it is. And this morning I was talking to someone else and we got talking about confidence. And I said, I think when you're, like you just said, as you go through life, when you're little, and I mean really little, sort of maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7, or even before that, you almost have no fear. We say, don't we, kids have no fear. You'll go off and you'll do anything, you'll say anything, you don't really think about it. And as you go through life, I guess you have times where your confidence gets knocked, but you maybe don't realize that's what it is, or maybe you don't have somebody that gifts you or sees those talents and brings those out in you so much, and it's not until maybe you get a bit older that you then start to see again. It's almost, I guess you could almost describe it as a bit of a roller coaster of confidence, couldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. There are definite peaks and troughs, I think, as you go through life and you have new experiences. Because I think each time you are starting something new, it's natural to not feel particularly confident because you've not done it before. So you have these times, and then you get confident as you actually start doing it, and you think, oh, this is fine, now I can do it. And then maybe there'll be the next new experience, so you get another peak and a trough.
Yeah. And would you say that that's what you see in most of your clients, the kind of the peaks and the troughs of how they're feeling about that transition into a new role?
Yes, I think at the beginning, what I usually see is they're super excited, about this opportunity and what they're doing, and it feels really good. And then a little time after that, normally when they contact me about some coaching, suddenly it's dawning on them, oh my goodness, can I really do it? Have I really got what it takes? And so that's where the lack of confidence comes in. But I always think that that's actually a really good place to be, because they're feeling really excited on the one hand, and then they've got this lack of confidence going on at the other, and that just means that they're in a place where they can really grow and develop. Because if they were feeling super excited and very confident, there wouldn't be anything to learn really, but they'd just be doing the things that they always do because they know they can do them. And if they were terrified and not sure they could do it and not excited, that would be an indication of, well, you probably shouldn't be taking this job on, really, if you don't really feel excited about it. So I think it's a healthy place to start. Yeah. And recognizing that that's actually exactly how they should be feeling at the beginning of a role helps them often to kind of calm down and think, okay, well, this is actually normal and it's quite good that I feel this way. So then you can see it in a different perspective, and it takes some of the scariness away.
Yeah, and I can relate to an awful lot of that, and from my own experiences as well. When you have this doubt, but I really like, and well, actually, what went through my mind when you were talking was, oh, I bet a lot of people come to you and they have this, oh, I must be the only one that's ever thought this. I must be the only person that thinks that I can't do this job. Is that you're not? I can see, clearly the listeners can't see, but I can see that you're nodding. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I think, yes, they often feel like they should be feeling confident. Like, what's wrong with me that I'm not feeling confident? And surely they don't necessarily say this, but what comes across is, surely everyone else is feeling confident when they start, and I'm the odd one out, kind of thing. So hearing that this is absolutely a normal thing and to be expected kind of takes the pressure off, and gives them permission to think, oh, actually it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, and I'm definitely not alone, because everybody will be feeling that when they transition into a new role. So Catherine, what about you? When do you see or feel your confidence is at its strongest?
I think, as I've said, when I'm doing something that I feel experienced in and good about, and where it's something that I feel as though my talent's being used. It's been interesting because recently I've been doing some new things because I've been ordained a priest.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I took my first weddings recently, and so I went through this. Oh, I'm not confident to lead a wedding.
Wow.
But at the same time, all I could do was prepare. So I did thorough preparation. I knew as much as I could do to get myself ready. Spoke to other people that for tips and everything, and then there came a point when the only thing I could do then was actually take the wedding. There was nothing else I could do to feel any more confident than get up there and say, welcome everybody to them. So there comes a time when you just got to take the action, haven't you, and get on with it. So
you know what I'd say to that? I'd say you pulled up your big pants and you went off and
exactly.
You did it. Yeah. And that's the taking action bit. You're absolutely right. Not to cut across you, but that's the taking action bit, isn't it? And I'm imagining now, I knew about the wedding, and I'm so excited that you've done that. But how are you feeling now? Would you say you're now feeling more confident now you've done that first one and you've taken that action?
Yes. I actually ended up taking 2 weddings on 2 consecutive days.
Brilliant.
So the first one, I was, oh my goodness, this is a big deal. Ooh, I'm nervous. But like I said, I did all the preparation, and it was a wonderful thing to do. It was such a joy. But then on the next day, I already felt like, okay, well, I've done this once. I'm not super confident yet, but I already know that I can do this. And so it had a different feel to it just 24 hours later.
Yeah, God, that is just a brilliant example, isn't it, of how taking action gives you almost like this mastery type feeling of, well, I've done this, and if people could see, you kind of sat up a bit taller and went, well, I've done this now. So I think, and I think that's what it does. There's no substitute, is there, for, do you know what, you've just got to go and do it.
Exactly. And I think we can spend so much time in our heads overthinking it, wanting to feel confident about it before we do it, because surely we should be. And it's only the actual doing it that gets us anywhere and moves us up the ladder, if you like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And for me as well, the preparation thing, I think as well, and you and I have talked before kind of about being match prepared, haven't we, in terms of being on a pitch, and for me that's in the preparation, because if we take the analogy of a footballer, they wouldn't go out onto the pitch without doing some training or some preparation or understanding a bit about the other side and that kind of thing. And I think when you're going into those situations, if you have, and this is all about your own, what's the right amount of preparation for you, I guess. It's about understanding what's right for you that's going to make you feel confident enough to go and take action. Yeah, exactly.
And I think it can really help to break things down into really small pieces when you're feeling overwhelmed with, is to say, right, well, what's one tiny little thing that I can do that will move it forward a little bit? And then it doesn't feel like this great big action that you've got to take, but a little piece suddenly feels more doable, doesn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think that I quite often say, and a lot of people haven't heard this, maybe I'm showing my age here, but other people haven't heard, you can't eat an elephant whole. Well, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you break it down into bite-sized chunks, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
And then it feels more manageable. And I think you're right. I also think that you celebrate those small wins then along the way. So when you've broken those down into those small pieces, by celebrating those wins, again, that builds that feeling of, oh, I've kind of got this.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. That's so true.
So
Yeah.
what about on the flip side of that then? When is your confidence at its lowest, and how do you know it's at its lowest?
I think, well, I know that it's low when I'm not doing the thing, you know. I think I can find myself doing all sorts of other things to fill in the gap between having to do anything, having to take the action. So, you know, I'll be planning like crazy, you know, doing research about the thing, planning on paper, writing a spreadsheet, doing something that will create the illusion that I'm doing it, but I'm not actually.
And in true coaching style, what are you doing there, Catherine?
Procrastinating.
Yeah. Which we all love a bit of procrastination, don't we? And
Yeah.
in what you're saying, I can hear and see myself doing that as well. Sorry, I interrupted you again, but yeah, that. And what's happening in that procrastination state for you?
I'm trying to make it perfect. I think I'm trying to make sure that I've covered every single thing I can think of, and therefore I think I'm trying to create a sense of confidence in myself that I've got it sorted. But when you're doing something new, you're not necessarily going to know that you've got it all covered and you've thought of everything, you know. So it becomes a never-ending story of trying to perfect it, and that's just not really helpful, is it? Do you see that with your?
Oh yeah, I see that in myself, but I do
Yeah.
see that in my coaching as well, you know, and other people that I work with and I network with. You know, procrastination is a bigger thing than I think we realize it is. And I think you're right. I think we do a lot because, particularly, you know, when you run your own business as well, you want things to be perfect because you're representing you, aren't you? And there comes a time when we go back to the point of, do you know what, you've just got to take action now.
Yeah,
it all comes, we're in a bit of a vicious circle. Yeah, totally. This is totally relatable. And I think we probably did that in the corporate world as well to a certain extent, and you probably see some of that in your clients.
Yes, completely, absolutely.
I mean, procrastination is probably a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
in itself.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit then about how your confidence helps you in what you do with the ladies that you coach. I've said ladies because I think you mainly work with women in your business.
That's right. Yes. Well, I think the fact that I've been in the position that they're in, you know, I've been in that situation of having this dream job and really wanting to do it well and feeling uncertain. That gives me confidence to accompany them on their journey as well. I'm not saying that I haven't got the answers, because coaching is all about the answers being in the person that you're working with. But I have been there, and I know I can relate. You know, I know what it's like to be in that situation. So that gives me confidence, in a sense, to work with them and to be alongside them to help them make a successful start in their new role. I'm not sure. How do you see? What about you?
I think that, do you know what? I think I try. Why have I said try? I'm aiming to be the most authentic version of myself. And I think that, going back to what we were saying earlier about, being yourself and learning about who you are, I've probably done a lot of that in the last 18 months, 2 years running my own business. And I think I've become clearer about who I am, and that absolutely gives me confidence to be really clear. And also I think I know that, I'm not going to be the right kind of coach for everybody, and I know I'm not going to be able to help everybody as much as I might want to, and that's okay too. So some of it, I think, is about acceptance, gives you confidence as well.
Totally.
But it takes a while to get there, doesn't it, really? And a lot of what you talked about I've experienced as well. So I've had that whole, God, can I really do this? Can I, what I think there's a difference, isn't there, between I was thinking, as you were saying at the beginning, about this transitional time and ladies lacking confidence, and you talking about them doubting their ability. I think we all do that from time to time, but I'm also guessing some people have, and this is probably another podcast as well, in terms of this imposter syndrome and self-doubt, which we could probably talk about forever, where sometimes we get that a bit confused and we think we've got imposter syndrome when actually what we've got is self-doubt. And sometimes the realization of, actually I don't have imposter syndrome, I've got it's self-doubt, and that's sometimes easier to deal with. But I wonder how when these newly promoted women come to you, what you said that that they're lacking in confidence and they're doubting their ability. Could you give us some examples of the kind of things that you're hearing them say?
Well, they generally start saying that they're really excited and passionate about the job that they've got, and they're just not sure. They want some help to make sure that they make as good a start as possible. They just tend to put themselves down a bit, like they're just how can I say, they're often really, you can just tell by talking to them that they're very competent, accomplished, experienced people with great backgrounds and years of experience in whatever field they're in. But all of a sudden they're just a bit on the back foot. It's not necessarily even what they say, it's just a kind of tentativeness about how they're going to manage it. And it can be things like, how are they going to be seen by other people? How are they going to be viewed, especially when they're being promoted in the same company, and the people that they were colleagues with, they're now going to be managing. So how does that relationship change? What are they going to think of them? How are they going to be perceived in the leadership team, if they're now in the leadership team and they weren't before, and they've got to raise their voice and be visible in a way that they haven't really been up to now. I think it's a lot of the visibility stuff that comes to the fore, because they're being perceived in a different way and they feel in themselves that makes them feel uncomfortable.
How do you then get them to take action? What kind of things do you encourage them to do to sort of raise that kind of visibility, if you like?
Well, I think a lot of it is, like I've said before, is acknowledging that this is normal, so that it's quite acceptable and completely normal that they're feeling this way. And then a bit with imposter syndrome, if they have a voice that's telling them that they're not good enough, or there's some critical voice going on, to notice that and to give it a name, so that it's not the whole thing that's happening inside them, and they can also listen to another voice that is the more positive side of them, that's encouraging them, and then to take action, to perhaps in a meeting, say, where they're feeling nervous about taking part in some high level meeting that they've not done before, to speak early, to say something early on in the meeting, even if it's not something very deep, but to make their voice heard so that they've actually said something out loud. Because I think that helps to make them feel that they are present in the meeting, and it's kind of gets them in flow a bit more.
Yeah, I love that, because I think, you know, to the point that we made earlier about taking action, that saying something out loud early, that's a great top tip, I think, to take away, because already then you feel like, oh, I've done that already. It'll be easier then next time. I've mastered that piece.
Yeah,
because I've already spoken.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great. Some great stuff in there, Catherine. And also, I'm a big believer, as you know, in naming that inner critic, that inner voice. Mine's called Betty. And actually, I heard her this morning because somebody said to me about, oh, why don't you do like a live Q&A? And Betty immediately piped up and said, but what if nobody turns up? It's those kind of questions, isn't it? But then I acknowledged it and went, yeah, all right. There's Betty right there. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And then I was like, well, then what could I do if that happened? You know, how can I prepare? We're back to that again. The confident. Here we go. Mm-hmm. There's some kind of model coming out of this, Catherine. I think some kind of circular model, isn't there, about preparing, taking action, confidence, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So, Catherine, then what is your top tip or takeaway that you'd like to share with the listeners about confidence?
Well, I think the big thing is that you don't need to feel confident in order to do the thing. You know, it's, as we've been saying, is just do it. Just make it something, a small step that you can take that will get it started. Yeah. Because you won't feel confident just sitting thinking about it. You've got to get on and do it. And as we all recognize that, it all gets a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great top tip. And if we could just stop the procrastination and go out and take action. And also, I think with the taking action, do you know what? It might not go how you hope it is going to go, but that's okay, because then you'll learn from it. But you've still taken action. You've still gone out there and you've still done it. So I think we should not worry too much about the what ifs and still crack on and do it, because whatever, there'll be some kind of result or, you know, learning that comes out of that.
That's so true. Yeah. I think you can feel that you've got to get it all right first time, don't you? And all doing it is going to do is give you some data, give you a learning experience, and then you can adjust it next time and tweak what you do, and it'll you're
and
growing confidence as you go.
Yeah, and actually I've just remembered something that you said to me a long time ago that stuck with me about, you know, I think we were talking about recording videos, and I was saying, oh, you do loads of videos, Catherine, and you come across really confident, and I haven't done any, and my commitment to you was to do them. And you used the word experiment. I can't remember what the word instead of, but it was more like, you know, oh, well, I really should do this. And you were like, well, experiment with it. And that's just that word, just the wording was like, oh yeah, because an experiment quite often doesn't go as you'd hoped, but that's okay, because it's got a label, hasn't it? It's labeled under, well, let's experiment with it and see what happens.
Exactly.
And I think that stuck with me, and I think that's a great way of looking at things when you're feeling less than confident, is to label them as something else that doesn't feel maybe quite so vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And then you can give yourself permission to see what happens, can't you? And it doesn't become a pressure to, oh, I've got to make this a success, because that's kiss of death, really, isn't it, once we do that?
Absolutely. I think. Absolutely. Oh, look, Catherine, thank you. It's been really great. I think we could probably talk all day, but thank you. That's been some great top tips in there. And your one about, you don't need to feel confident to do that thing. Just go out and take action, I think, is the one message I'd encourage any of the listeners to go out and do.
Yeah.
So just tell us really quickly, and this will be in the show notes, but let us know where people can find you if they want to get in touch with you.
Yes, my website is edenboroughcoaching.co.uk, and I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me as Catherine Edenborough on there. And those are the two main ways.
Great, lovely. Thanks for your time, Catherine, and I will see you soon.
Great to talk to you, Gail. Thanks a lot. Bye.
It was great to talk to Catherine today, and as a fellow coach it was also great to talk to her about confidence and to get her perspective on it in terms of the clients that she works with and how she works with confidence, and also to understand a little bit about her confidence too. We definitely agreed that confidence comes through taking action, so if you're listening to this but you're holding back on doing something, then go and do it, experiment with it, because once you've done it you will feel more confident. So thanks for listening, and join me next time on the Confidence Conversations podcast.